Well, today I'm going to tell you how to fit a extension kit to a Nicolazzi wall mount mixer. So that could be a Regal 3-hole code number 1477, or it could also be a set of stop taps 1412. So what we have here is a few parts, and I'll show you what they're all about. So obviously this is the in-wall part here, and you've got the cartridge sticking out the end. Basically the reason for these extension kits is if your wall lining is too thick. Here you've got the board where the internal was mounted onto, then you've got the wall lining. So if you've got the studs here, then you've got substrate wall lining, which could be jib. Then you might have tiles, so you've got a 10mm jib or rock board, and then you've got say 5mm of glue, and then you've got say 10mm, or if you've got a big heavy tile that might even be 20mm. It starts coming out here quite a bit, and then you've got no room to screw your handle on. So what you'll need to do in this case is, so if you've got a standard wall and you've only got jib, or you've got jib and tile, it should be fine because you've got this part here. So you've got what we call a dress ring, and that screws onto there. Now this is a different color just for contrast, and so that would screw onto there. And if your wall lining's around about here, you can then press this flange on, and say if it came to about there, you're then able to screw that on like so. So you screw the handle on, and then you've got the small gap which is there, and that is what the dress ring covers, what's underneath. It could be a brass coloured cartridge. In this case it's a chromed cartridge, but if it is a brass coloured cartridge it can look a little ugly. So what to do when you've got wall lining that's too thick and it comes out too far here. So either you can cut this down and just insert it in there. Sometimes that'll go right through until it's almost disappeared into the wall, and then you can put this on. You can have it so that if that's on there like that, so we should have put the dress ring on, but basically if you've got it on there like that, however far up that screws, which is about parallel with the bottom of the cartridge shoulder, the external part of the cartridge shoulder, which is there, that should be fine. But like I say, if you've got a deeper part there, which is your wall lining, you'll need to put this extension kit on. So what you get in the packet, I'll just take it out. So what you get in the packet is a couple of different extensions, and they can wind together. So if it's really deep in the wall, you can use this extension here, which extends the cartridge spindle, and then you've got the bolt that goes through there. So you can see the different cut marks here as you go down. So you could have a really deep wall, or otherwise the internal has been mounted way too far back, or it's just impractical to mount it any further forward. It would be great for situations where you've got an outside tap where they need a couple of stop taps and you're going to have an outside shower. So sometimes they have to be buried quite far into the wall. So that's where this comes in handy. So I'll just remove these apart, and I'm not going to cut this because this is a stock item. So if we put that on there and then we place that down in there, that screws on, so you've got full part of it. So sometimes you get asked, what happens if this is going to go on here like this, and it only goes a certain amount of distance until, and you can't go any further here. So what you can do is you can cut right up to pretty much, you can see the shoulder inside there. So if you measure that, so if that goes on that far, you've got about 5mm. I haven't got a tape measure with me, but you've got about 5mm, and then so you measure about 5mm away from here, and then you can put that on, and then you've got a very small extension. You still have to use your cartridge spindle extension as well. So the solution to a very thick wall lining is this extension kit, 5590NEW from Nicolazzi, and I'd highly recommend when you're putting it in, just making sure that it's going to fit correctly just by dry fitting it. And this here is this part here is infinitely variable through there because of it works on an O-ring so that it doesn't have a thread. Okay, so when you've got a wall lining that's just in between measurement of where the original finishes and the extension starts. Sometimes there's a little bit of a gap, so you'll definitely need to use this for a buffer for the gap. So the easiest way to do that is cut anywhere along here up to about 5mm, because if you screw this on, it'll stop, because obviously there's thread that can't go past that shoulder on that cartridge. So you're going to have to cut it down, I reckon about 5mm, or whatever that is from there to there, 4 or 5mm, and that'll go right onto there. What you might have to do is that you might have to screw that on there completely, so that'll even if that disappears into the wall, and then you put your extension part on and then wind this back, and once that's wound back, it'll start going over the top of that other one, so it'll create like a bridge between. And then once you've cut and decided the correct length for this spindle part here, then you can screw it on, and of course this is going to be closer to that end, but this particular part here will be right in there. That'll create a bridge, so you won't see your brass pieces in the middle. So if you can imagine that on there, then your handle flange, so the wall flange, then the handle flange with the hex on it, and that middle part there, the dress ring, that will bridge the gap so you don't see any brass or anything through there. It makes it a bit ugly if it's a different finish, especially if it's like a very dark finish. If it's a brass finish, it won't matter. Other than that, that's an insight on how to use the 5590 new extension kit for either the 1412 stop tap or the 1477 3-hole bath mixer or 3-hole basin mixer. Hope this is helpful. Please post in the comments below if you would like to know anything else about these particular Nicolazzi products. Happy to help. Thanks for watching.